two, 1, 2.
Yeah, all right, we're rocking there. Cat's gonna sit in your guitar case.
All right, that's right.
Hi, welcome to the 13th floor. I'm Marty Duda, and today we have with us Josh Teskey of the Teskey Brothers. So
Good to be here, Marty. Thank you.
Well, it's great that you would stop by. Where are the rest of your brothers?
Okay, yeah, they're still lazing back in Melbourne at the moment, and
Yeah.
now they'll be working really hard.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Yeah.
And they'll be here tomorrow for the first show in Auckland.
Right, playing the tuning fork.
That's correct. Yeah.
So it should be very exciting. Now, I know you guys were here in Auckland not too long ago when you opened for Julia and Angus Stone. Is
That's
that right?
correct.
And I missed you then because I just showed up for them. And when I came in, I think it was at the Civic, everybody was telling me, you should have seen the opening band. You should have seen they were fantastic. Did you get that kind of feedback as well?
We had a really, really good time with those shows. It was fantastic. It was, it's one of the best things you can do is like a support tour, I think, before you come and do your own tour.
Yeah.
And especially at a show like that, they were in all the theatres and the Civic Hall, like you said. So, we got a really good chance at it. Sometimes when you do a support slot, stage lights are still on, the background music's still on, everyone's having a drink, and you can be totally talked all over. But those gigs in the theatres like that, they encourage a real environment for everyone to check it out and have a listen, and we got a fantastic response, and that was kind of, I guess, really the decision to come out and do our own tour, which has been going fantastic. So
from what I hear, tickets are flying out to go see you guys
yeah,
at Tuning Fork. So
well, that's right. Yeah,
that's a good sign.
Yeah. So it's gone really well. Yeah, and they're all coming along. So it means we can come back to New Zealand more regularly. If people come to the shows, we'll be here, man.
And of course, most of these people consider you a relatively new discovery. I've probably seen you or heard you for the first time, but you guys have been around for like a decade, right?
That's right. Yes. I mean, we've been playing together for like in this format with all four of us for about over 10 years now, I think, and then me and my brother Sam. So there's only two brothers in the band. Yep. We've been playing together since we were kids. So we used to do a lot of kind of Robert Johnson blues and busk our way all around the markets of Melbourne, and we just grew up playing music. Always loving this old blues and soul stuff.
And from what I read, the band has gone through kind of some musical changes over the 10 years until you kind of come to this place where I guess the best way to describe it is very much kind of Muscle Shoals, Stax, kind of R&B. With a lot of blues influence in it. So how did you get to that?
Totally.
That point?
It's interesting. I guess we started off more blues-based. We were much more of a kind of blues-based band, and I guess my sort of singing got influenced later by moving into more like the Stax records and a lot of these all that sort of Muscle Shoals stuff, and that sort of influenced me. But I guess the question is that all four members of the band, we all have really different tastes in music. So the soul side of things is definitely that American soul. That's kind of my influence. My brother Sam, he's much more of a English invasion kind of man. Listening to people like Peter Green and the Rolling Stones and all these characters over there in Britain. And then you've got our bass player Brendan is a big mixed bag of different things, and same with our drummer Liam. So I guess we've always experimented in all sorts of different sort of worlds. And maybe down to the fact that we all kind of write songs in the band as well. So every time someone writes a song, it has its own element to it. There's particular Liam Gough songs, particular Sam Teskey songs. After years of songwriting with them, you can pick them straight away. For me, I go that's a typical Sam Teskey song or a typical Liam song, and it's and they've all got their influences in that way. So. In no ways have we always just been a soul band. I guess the years of playing around the pubs in Melbourne and doing really long sets as well. So I mean, we used to play, musos will know when you're doing the three setters in a hotel or a pub or something, you got to bring out a big mixed bag of material. So people who'd seen us over the years might have seen us jamming on some gypsy Latin grooves or some, just when we're filling out the time as well.
Whatever gets you through the night, right?
That's right. But at the core of it, I think from the very beginning, it's always been, we call it, soul and blues is the genre we generally stick to.
So you're going to perform a few songs just solo for us here today. So you mentioned that everybody in the band writes them. So this is your chance, since you're on your own. Are these all your songs, or are they?
Yeah, well,
See, there you go.
funny enough, I think they are, but not particularly as well. So, the first song I'll sort of play is definitely one of my babies, and it's the first song off the album, Half Mile Harvest. And the second song I'll sort of throw in there is a song called Pain and Misery, which was really a bit of a collaboration of me and the bass player Brendan Love. So even though a lot of the lyrics and stuff are kind of my story, but Brendan, our bass player, often he wrote the chords for that. We often do a lot of writing together, and he musically comes up with a lot of things, and as we sort of put the songs together, everyone puts their flavor on it as well. So we always sort of share even though the original idea might have come from one of the members, or it might be one of mine or Sam's, definitely we all collaborate to make the song whole, right, as it ends up.
Now the first one we're going to hear is called Cry and Shame, right?
That's correct.
And what can you tell me about that before we hear it?
Well, that's it's about that same subject that blues singers have been singing out for 100 years or more.
Yeah.
It's a heartbreak song, and it's definitely a typical sort of thing of someone singing the blues. We're really singing the blues on this song, and it's a breakup song.
All right. Well, let's give it a listen, and we'll come back and talk some more.
Well, you just bring me to my woman, and that's a crying shame. Well, you just bring me to my woman, and that's a crying shame. Since you gone away and left me, honey, I've been crying with the pain. Well, I'd do most anything to feel your love just once again. Well, I'd do most anything to feel your love just once again. But that day it never comes, babe. That's why I'm crying with the pain. Yeah, whoa, whoa. Oh, you're just like a little child, baby, and you treat love just like a game. Oh, you're just like a little child, baby, and you treat love just like your own game. But you never really love me, honey. Yeah, yeah. That's why I'm crying with the pain. Oh, I'm crying with the pain. 'Cause every night and every day. Yes, I'm crying, baby. 'Cause every night and every day. was just the words I wanna hear from you, baby. Yeah, and those are the words that you never say.
Okay, we're back here with Josh Teskey of the Teskey Brothers. They're about to play at the Tuning Fork for their first headlining tour of New Zealand, but we've got Josh here in advance. And we just heard him singing Crying Shame from the album Half Mile Harvest. And one thing I wanted to talk to you about was your approach to your vocals, because it's definitely, if we didn't know better, we wouldn't think that it was a white guy in Australia singing those songs. It sounds like somebody from back in the 60s who may have spent a lot of time with Otis Redding or Wilson Pickett or somebody like that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to how do you get to the point where you feel that you can sing like that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I've always been obsessed with this kind of music, and Otis Redding's a massive influence of mine. But since I was a kid, so I've it's always been the way I've sung. So going back to when I was about 12 years old,
Really?
and we'd be wailing away, and I used to say to my dad, I'm pretending to sing like a blues singer, Dad. Check this out, and my parents were always really encouraging and say, mate, you're not pretending, you're doing it, keep at it. That sort of works for you. So even before my voice had broken, I was singing in all the wrong ways and singing with that gravelly kind of tone, and that's kind of been my style ever since. And I guess it comes from that just the influences of what you listen to and what you want to sound like, I guess. And your vocal cords are just a muscle, I guess. And if you train them to do whatever you want them to do, and that's always been my sound,
Right, because there is a difference between pretending to be a blues singer and being a blues singer, isn't
Yeah, it's a hard line. I like to think of myself as always pretending for a long time, but for the first time, we've kind of, as we've had years of being part-time musicians and playing on the weekends, and I guess this last year has been the first time, I can kind of call myself a blues singer now. We're touring around and we're doing it, so hey,
Not bad. And songwriting-wise, is it difficult to come up with original material that sounds like it fits your voice, and that without you going, well, wait a minute, I've just written this, but it sounds an awful lot like an old, Otis Redding song or something that Sam and Dave had done in the past? Do you find yourself having to kind of steer your way around that?
Yeah, I think you got to be like aware of it. Sometimes you got to be aware of sometimes by accident you can come up with some chords and go, this is actually exactly the same as a change is going to come or something like that, an old Otis Redding song. But I think as long as you don't get too caught up in, for me, like songs, I always refer to songs as a bit similar to the dreams in that Roald Dahl book, the BFG, and there are these things floating around sometimes. And I think sometimes a song just seems to pop in your way. And I think a lot of like songwriters might have a similar kind of analogy like this, and however you want to think of it. Sometimes songs just turn up and you feel like this is and you have that poet thing of where you got to write it all down, and then the idea is there. And I think they're always going to have their own sort of flavor. So as long as you stick to the kind of the original idea of what the sort of song kind of floated into your brain as, that's how I like to think of it. That's the key for me. And I guess one way or another, it's going to have this influences of the music you've always grown up to and listened to, but there's always going to be your swing on it, and especially when the other band members put their salt and pepper on it as well. I think that always morphs together to be its own sound, So even though our influences are very much this old Stax and Soul stuff, it's sort of I think it's always going to have its own sound in its own way,
Now the next song we're going to hear is Pain and Misery, which goes right around with Crying Shame. You talked a little bit about it before. Is there anything else we need to know about it before we hear it?
Well, I guess it's a very in a similar theme of the first song, Crying Shame, and a little joking kind of thing about the whole recording of this whole album. I mean, I guess it's really a theme of this whole album. It's the guys singing the blues and the whole process. Even though everyone's written these songs and all the songs seem to have a similar kind of theme to them, so we describe it as a bit of a group therapy session. The whole recording process,
Have a big cry at the end of it.
That's exactly right, man. That's exactly right. So it's another heartbreak song there,
Excellent. Well, let's give it a listen then.
I've been in love, honey, you know it's true. Was since that day I first laid my eyes on you. Love's a crazy game, baby. That's how I feel. Can make you all so high, but it takes so long to heal. So please, yeah, I want you to stay with me. 'Cause since you gone, it's a pain and misery. Please, oh please, I want you to stay with me. 'Cause since you gone, it's just pain and misery. Sometimes I curse that day when you came along. I was happy, but it's been pain now for so very long. Oh, I'm begging you, honey, please, I want you to stay. 'Cause I've been so lonely since you gone away. Every day is pain, and in the end it's hard to see that every day is all so sad. Now that I lost the best friend that I ever had. Oh please, I want you to stay with me. 'Cause since you gone, it's a pain and misery. Oh now please, oh please, I want you to stay with me. 'Cause since you gone, it's just pain and misery. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, well, I'm begging you, honey. Whoa, whoa. Say, I want you to love me. I need you so bad this morning. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whoa.
Okay, we're back here with Josh Teskey of the Teskey Brothers, and so the album is Half Mile Harvest. It's named after, was it the studio that you recorded?
Yeah, so we call the studio Half Mile Harvest, and it's our own home studio. Mm-hmm. And a big theme of this whole album, I guess, and maybe the reason to record it in the first place was my brother Sam's love of old analog equipment, and at the very center of the studio is an old, it's called a Duda A800, and it's a tape machine it's a 2-inch tape machine from the 70s, and
big 2-inch machine.
Yeah, big, kind of weighing in at about 450 kilos or something like that. It was a big mission to get in our hilly property out there in the Yarra Valley of Melbourne.
And just toting the tapes around is it?
Yeah, I mean, they're massive. It's a massive machine, but it's a beautiful machine, and the whole process of this album was we didn't use any computers, and we wanted to record in a way that all our favorite artists of the 60s and 70s were recording, to attempt to sort of have that sound and do everything down to a T, down to that process. And Half Mile Harvest, half a mile is the roughly, I think, very close to the length of a 2-inch tape reel. So,
okay.
so that's sort of, so as if you roll out a tape, so it's a bit of a kind of a tribute to the fact that it's all been recorded analog.
Right.
And we thought it had a bit of a better ring than 333 kilometers or whatever it is we say.
It's still easy to get tape?
Yeah, it's coming about. It's not massively easy, but it's there's a couple of distributors still where we are in Melbourne. There's a few people sort of keeping that on rolling, and
Right.
it's sort of, as we talk about, there's a big resurgence of the old
Right.
at the moment too. So there's a few studios that are recording in a similar way, and over in America especially, all the Daptone records
Yep.
record all their records still to reel to reel as well, and it seems to be a bit of a thing that's coming back. So
Right along with
ours
vinyl
is
itself. So
getting
so more pressing plants, and we need some more.
Yeah,
tape.
that's correct.
Yeah,
And we've got a great record sort of plant in Melbourne, Zenith, and they for the first time got the whole setup that we can bring our reels directly into them and go, press it straight to record
nice.
without doing any kind of bounces to a digital sort of format whatsoever, which is really exciting for us.
Yeah. Now, I know, I think it's, who's it, Gillian Welch and David Rawlings in Nashville are kind of into the same kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
Very careful about how their records are, because they do everything analog, and
and that sound, that kind of theme, you can, you really can't sort of capture it in many other ways. You can put a million different compressors and different sort of effects on your sort of on your Pro Tools to try and get that sound, but we feel it's a really unique sound that represents that time, you know, and I think you can hear it in, Charles Bradley's records, Liam Bridges' records, all these analog sounds. You immediately feel like this is a real, this feels like a real, it's got that sound to it.
So what kind of audiences do you get? Are they younger folks, older folks, people who are kind of wanting to relive the 60s and 70s?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real mixture in Melbourne for us. So Melbourne, we have everybody from, we have this joke where we have sons and daughters that tell their parents about it and bring them along to the gig, and we also have parents that tell their sons and daughters about it and bring them along to the gig as well.
Nice.
So it's a real mixture. But we've found that it'll be interesting to see, at the in the Auckland show tonight and tomorrow night and over in Wellington and things like that, what the crowd is. We've noticed on the overseas gigs, it tends to be a slightly younger audience, mainly just probably due to them mostly finding out about it through streaming sort of websites and being less kind of directly involved. So we find the younger crew are more on the international market sort of getting hold of it, but hopefully they'll tell their parents and they'll bring them down too.
Very good. Okay, we got one more song. It's called what? I Get Up?
That's correct.
It sounds a little more uplifting than the two blues songs. And you say it's a new song that you haven't recorded yet.
This is a brand newie, so this is a little, we just thought we'd throw that in the mix there, and we're recording this one at the moment, and anyone who's coming down to the shows, we always play this one in our set as well, and we've got a fair few numbers we like to throw into the mix. And
are you thinking about doing a new album already?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the works, so we're in the works, and we're it won't be for a long time yet, but we're sort of, all the songs we're ready for, we're throwing them down in the studio, and we're lucky enough to have our own studio where we kind of just put it down straight away. And I guess part of the nature of recording analog is we have to be a little bit more on top of it and get it right the first time. So we like to kind of tour these songs and play them live and before we kind of put them down. Right. But this is our this is one of those kind of stick it to the man kind of songs, I guess. It's our kind of personal feel sorry finance song. That's
Excellent. All right, we need more of those. Well, thank you for coming by and sitting down and talking and playing your songs for us. And
thanks so much for having us.
Everyone to come out and see you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah.
It ain't easy sometimes trying to just get by. When you get broken down again, it ain't because you didn't try. I tried to count the days that I've been disappointed. So many homes sometimes it gets disjointed, but it's hard trying to make a living. Oh, when you get down again, you just keep giving, yeah. Every time I get up, something come and bring me down. I get so low sometimes, feel I'm level with the ground, yeah, baby. Hey, yeah, yeah. I tried my best to make my way, but it wasn't enough. Desire burns when your dreams are close to touch. I'm working for the man till it gets dark, but the hardest part is starting from the start. Yeah, it's hard trying to make a living. Oh, when you get down again, you just keep giving away everything, giving away everything, giving away everything. Yeah, yeah. Every time I get up, something come and bring me down. I get so low sometimes, feel I'm level with the ground. Every time I get up, something come and bring me down. I get so low sometimes, feel I'm level with the ground. Every time I get up, something come and bring me down. I get so low sometimes, feel I'm level with the ground. Yeah, baby. I get so low, I get so low.